there's 4 things that are happening that have nothing to do with your weight when you are deciding to lower your calories. So this is about so much more than just weight loss. And even if some of these things kind of make you think like, what's the big deal? Doesn't matter. I ask you to just hang with me, because if you are someone who has been dieting for a very long time, then this stuff has happened to you at some point, even if it's not happening to you now, or even if it seems like what we're talking about doesn't really apply to you. So the very first thing that is happening, the very first bodily function that is actually being altered when you're lowering your calories is your reproductive system. Again, like I said, stay with me. You might be like, well, I'm not trying to get pregnant, or I'm already in menopause, or whatever it is. I want to make sure that you still think about this. So when your calories are limited, that means that other things are happening within your body. So in your reproductive system, your estrogen, your testosterone, I promise you I'm not going to make this into a science lesson. The production of both of those, the release of them becomes very limited. This may not seem like a huge deal, like I say, if you're not necessarily trying to get pregnant, although if you are, there's an issue there. But those are 2 fat burning hormones. Those are 2 hormones that are very, very key in when you're trying to build muscle or burn fat, which building muscle helps you to burn fat. So these are things that you don't necessarily want to limit. You don't want to get them to that place. Now, again, if you are younger or you are trying to start a family, then this is something really that you want to take into consideration, that drastic reduction in your calories can lead to you either not having a cycle or having a cycle that's very irregular, which, like I say, when you're seeing those things, a lot of times people just disregard them and think it's no big deal. I just have an irregular, menstrual cycle. But if you're having an irregular menstrual cycle, if you are putting yourself in a position where your testosterone is limited, if you're a guy, then you are affecting your fat burning hormones. So you don't necessarily want to get in that position of having those to be limited, or to, put yourself in a position of some of the other things that are happening, like metabolic syndrome, PCOS, and obesity. So estrogen plays a huge role in a lot of those things. And if you're someone who's ever attempted to try to conceive and you're overweight, you've probably heard a lot more about how you shouldn't eat too much and how you should, really try to reduce your weight because obesity affects trying to get pregnant. But it's just really interesting and important for you to know and understand that slashing calories can have almost identical effects as what we're seeing with obesity and how that's affecting your PCOS or, your ability to try to conceive. And like I said, the main thing that you need to worry about is the fact that your body's goal is survival. So when calories are limited, it starts shutting down what's considered non-essential functions, and it turns them off one by one. It starts slowly limiting the budget for these things, all of the 4 that we're going to talk about today, or it just starts operating them irregularly because they're operating on very, very limited resources, which means if these areas are operating on limited resources, that means whatever the goal is that you're trying to accomplish by doing them is also not being taken care of, because those things, your goals, your physique goals, things like that, are last on the body's agenda. So even though it seems like it's not a big deal if your reproduction is altered, if parts of your reproductive system aren't functioning properly, it does matter, because if your body has to turn its attention to those things, that means it's turning its attention away from whatever the reason is that you're doing it. So just remember that your body, as I'm discussing the next 3, cannot tell the difference between like actual starvation and self-imposed restriction. So that means that, like I say, those non-essential functions are shutting down. So for those of you guys who have just joined, we're discussing the 4 areas, the 4 bodily functions that kind of take a hit when you are not eating enough food, when you are slashing your calories. So like I said, those things become budgeted and the calories go towards something else that is considered essential. So rather than making babies or losing fat, your body dispenses those calories to somewhere else. So if your goal is fat loss, that's something that you want to consider. Now, also, one of the biggest areas that your body does want to portion these calories to is your brain. So that is the next area that we're going to cover, and that's cognitive function. So the very first one that we talked about is reproductive. So your body wants to be able to make babies. Your body wants to be able to have enough testosterone and estrogen being excreted from your hormones. But when it doesn't have enough for those things. It shuts those down and tries to send it to your brain. Your brain takes in so many calories. So your brain has an extremely high calorie requirement. So it's like a quarter of what your entire body requires. So like if you decide to take it upon yourself to slash your calories and say you're supposed to eat 2,300, but you decide I'm gonna eat 1,400 instead, that 575, that quarter of the 2,300 that your brain needed for function, it still needs, even if you decide that you only want to eat 1,400 calories. So that's one of those things that you actually want to think about, is that even when you decide that like, I'm not going to eat enough, your body still needs what it needs, except for now it doesn't have it. Now it's being spread too thin. So the body still wants, your brain still wants its cut. It still wants its quarter of the calorie cut. So you keep reducing those calories, that quarter becomes more essential. And now there's less to disperse to the other areas. So when you don't give your brain what it needs, I don't think this is a huge surprise to most of us, but that's when you start performing at suboptimum levels here. So you start having issues with mood, with your memory, you know, with problem solving, with critical thinking, with being cranky and moody and irritable and anxious and fatigued. You just can't think straight. Like hangry is a real thing. It's not like, this isn't something that like, I know we talk about it and we toss around the term hangry, but it's legit. If you don't eat enough, that hangry feeling is real and it is solved by food. So when you don't give your body that food, then your whole cognitive processes they're going to suffer a little bit. So like I said, the first one was reproductive. The second one was cognitive. And think about it. If you can't think straight, that starts altering, like maybe if you're trying to stick to some super restrictive diet, it starts altering your ability to even do it because you can't think straight, or you're put so much focus into that you use up all the brain power that you legit have, and you can't focus on anything else. You can't spend time with your family. You can't focus in school or at work or whatever this big project is that you may be doing or something else. So your brain needs calories. When you undereat, reproductive shuts down, cognitive shuts down. That's your brain, that's your thinking, that's your mood and stuff like that. So when you're anxious and tired and all that stuff and you're dieting, it's not a coincidence. Don't think that you can just keep cutting those calories and solve the problem. Okay, so the third one that I'm going to actually jump to, I was going to save it for last, but I'm going to jump to this one right away because this is the biggest one for me. And I was going to start with it first and then I was going to put it last, but I decided to put it third instead because I wanted to see who kind of stuck around for this part. So your metabolic function is yet another area that suffers when you eat too little. So obviously if we eat too much, we understand, okay, we can gain weight and have all of these things that we connect with obesity, metabolic syndrome, and a lot of other issues, diabetes and things like that. But we don't realize that when you eat too little, this exact same thing is happening. So your RMR, your resting metabolic rate, which is basically your metabolism, goes up and down according to how much food you eat. So if you eat too little, then your metabolism is lower. If you eat more, your metabolism increases. So whenever you eat less than you need, your metabolism is going to adjust to meet that new need, that new decreased need. It will also adjust to increase to meet an increased need if you increase your calories, but we're gonna talk about that in a little bit. So the main reason why this happens is because once you start to lower the calories, like we said, the brain has already taken its quarter of those, or at least it's trying to, unless there literally just isn't enough to go around. Well, what the brain now does, the reason why it needs that quarter of your calories is because it's telling everybody else what to do. So once the brain gets hip to the fact that you're not going to eat enough food, then your brain starts sending signals. It sends signals to your thyroid to start to lower its output. It sends signals to your body to start getting rid of muscle. It's like muscle is so metabolically expensive, meaning muscle also takes a lot of calories, just like the brain does. And the brain's like, I'm not going to compete for calories with muscles. So let's throw muscle off the ship because I got things to do and I got a body to run. So when that starts happening, the less muscle you have, your metabolism's slower. When your thyroid output starts going down, your metabolism's lower. We hear a lot of these things like separate from each other, but we're not realizing that they all come together. And also another big reason for that is because just simply the act of eating food, period, burns calories. So if you're eating less, then you're just burning less calories, because even the calories that you're losing in digestion goes down because there's just less digestion happening. So one of those things that we have to pay attention to. So we got the reproductive system, we got the what was the other one? Cognitive system, and we got the metabolic system. All of these functions are adjusting based on the amount that we're giving them. So remember, when it comes to your metabolic system, I know that we have like this issue in the industry of like 1,200 calories being like just kind of the number that we remember, or the number that we're like, oh, okay, as long as I don't go below that number, I'm okay. The thing is, the closer you're even getting to that number, so even if you're supposed to be at 2,000 and you're eating 1,500, the closer you get to that number, the more hits your metabolism is taking, the more damage that is going down, the more your brain is sending signals like, yep, not going to happen, can't perform that function, can't perform that function, shut that down. And as it starts shutting those things down, guess what? You're not getting what you're doing it all for in the first place. So being on that perpetual calorie lowering frenzy that a lot of us do when we start off like diet, and this diet doesn't work, so then we go to this diet, and okay, and now it's working, and now we go to another one. We don't realize a lot of times when we're just hopping from diet to diet to diet, all those diets are doing is accomplishing yet another way of reducing our calories even further, which means it's taking you even further down that rabbit hole. And that's a recipe for disaster, because literally weight loss gets harder every time you lower your calories. Like, not like figuratively, it literally gets harder based on those things, based on your thyroid output lowering, based on the RMR adjusting to meet the need, based on that muscle loss, because you're really only gaining muscle or losing muscle. There's no in between. So that is a losing battle when it comes to lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering your calories, no matter how promising it seems in the beginning. I know it can seem really promising when you hit a plateau in one thing and then you jump over to something else and it's really just a creative way of lowering your calories. It doesn't matter. You just went further down than you were before. That's not a good thing that suddenly the scale started moving again. It's a sign that you're going down the wrong path and that you've gotten further down that wrong path than you want to be. So like I said, most people don't realize that the opposite occurs too. So the same way that you can go down the rabbit hole, you can climb up by increasing your calories. So that's going to help your thyroid to know, like, okay, the brain will start sending signals to the thyroid to do what it needs to do. You're going to have that increased thermic effect of food, which is that digestion loss, the calories that you're losing and burning during digestion. And just overall, your body's going to be able to rebuild muscle mass, especially if you're doing the workouts that you're supposed to do to help you to build muscle mass. Your body's going to automatically know what to do with that when you have extra calories and you're doing those types of workouts. So metabolic is a big, big one. We can circle back to that. If you guys have questions about it, I'm going to stick around for Q&A afterwards, but I do want to get to the fourth one for those of you who have to hop off and you can't stick around for Q&A, and for you replay viewers who've made it this far. The fourth one is your restorative processes. So this is just simply how your body repairs from all sorts of things. So whether it's you have an injury of some sort, you broke your leg and the bone needs to repair, or if you're working out, because the whole reason why muscle actually helps you is your body breaks down the muscle when you go to lift weights, and then it repairs it and it comes back bigger and stronger. So when it comes back bigger and stronger, now you have increased muscle mass, metabolism goes up, all that good stuff. That's how you end up with more defined muscles too, is from that breakdown repair process. So the key thing to remember, even if you think restoration, repairing isn't that big of a deal, you're like, I don't have anything to repair, I don't have any broken bones, I'm all good. You have to remember that there are only two forms of metabolism. So that's why I put this after the metabolic talk that we just had, is because your metabolism is based on your muscle, and there's two forms of your metabolism, anabolic and catabolic. Again, not making this a science lesson for you. The key to remember is that anabolic is building, catabolic is tearing it down. So you heard like catabolism, that is when your body is breaking down muscle, fat, whatever. So those are the two things. So you're either building something up or you're tearing it down. Now, which one is happening? If you aren't eating enough, then you are limiting your ability to be anabolic, to build. You are enabling your body to be catabolic. You are saying, you know what? Hey, like we said before, the brain starts sending those signals of like, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. And it starts breaking things down. So that means that whether you are injured and want to heal, you're going to heal slower or maybe not at all. If you are getting in the gym and you're breaking down those muscles and expecting to look ripped, you won't, because you're not giving those muscles enough food and enough fuel to actually repair. So anabolic and catabolic, that's all we got. There's no such thing as maintenance. Whole nother session, a whole nother session. There's no such thing as maintenance. We can come back to that, like I said, if you guys have questions. But just know that eating too few calories is going to put your body into that catabolic state. It's going to impair your ability to build. It's going to encourage breakdown, muscle breakdown, bone breakdown, brain, heart, organ, internal function breakdown. So eating too little does that. So if you're attempting to build muscle or do any type of activity where you're generally trying to get better at it, under eating is sending your body the opposite message. So you're doing one thing, saying this is what I want, and then you're not giving it enough fuel, and that's going to cancel out what you're doing. So the bottom line is that your body needs and wants to be sufficiently fueled. So I know this is something, obviously this is Eat More to Weigh Less, so I'm sure this isn't, unless you're new here, this isn't the first time you've heard me say to eat more. But I just want to really hone in on this, that because when all of your calories are being budgeted toward essential functions, there's no room left for the thing that you think that you're accomplishing with diet and exercise. So the 4 things that we talked about today that your body is trying to budget when you're on a diet: your reproductive, your cognitive, your metabolic, and then also your restorative functions. All of those things are more important to your body than fat loss. And then even those things start hitting the chopping block as your body realizes, okay, we need to fix this. There's a problem here. And like I said, your body doesn't know the difference between real starvation and self-imposed restriction. So if your self-imposed restriction equals dieting, FYI. So pay attention to how your calories need to be budgeted and think that through when you're trying to just find the next diet, or when you're trying to go after something that you think like, I really don't care, or like, I just need to lose this weight like yesterday and I don't care about all that stuff. The point is that your body does. Your body cares about those things. So even if you don't, we can attempt, and most of us have tried it, you can attempt to be stingy and say, you know what, like I said, I don't care if all of those processes shut down as long as I lose this weight because I need to get it off. Your goals are going to keep eluding you. If you keep refusing to give your body what it needs, it's going to tell you flat out, like, you refuse to give me what I need, then let me tell you something. Everything that you're going after, in addition to all of those other things, are going to be impaired. So even though you think that you're outsmarting your body, we can't. The body will always win. So we can't be stingy with it. So let me see what some of you guys are saying out here, because Mary Jo, I really think you're hitting on some stuff right here. So you're saying we have to do some self-love. Seriously, like, this is what it comes down to. We can't do it. Our body is going to make it a living hell. Literally. If you're like, I don't care what you need, I'm gonna get what I need, your body's just gonna come back to you and say the exact same thing. It's gonna be like, well, I don't care what you need. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And you're not gonna lose the weight, and you won't have kids or be able to think properly, heal properly, whatever. So even though it seems like it's, just one of those things that you can outsmart, you can't outsmart your body. Your body's going to do what it needs to do. Trust me, it's not a battle that you will ever win. Even if you seem like you're winning it temporarily, you're not. So I will stick around for Q&A for you guys. If anybody had any questions, I'm going to look through the comments to see if anybody had questions. And obviously, if you need any help with this, You can ask questions right now. You can ask questions after the broadcast. Just post them there. You can also, we have a free quick start guide. If this is the first time you've ever heard of any of this information, you just go to em2wl.com/start and grab that there. So I'm going to put that up on the screen while I look around, just in case no one has seen that before. And I'm going to look and see what you guys are saying. Let's see, Therese, you said rushing the process will just add time to it. So true. And most people don't realize this. They do. They spend a lot of their time just kind of like, you know, I'm going to do what I got to do, or I'm going to go through the reset, which I don't know if you guys have heard of a metabolism reset. If you haven't, that link that I just posted there will also give you more information about that. But a lot of people, they get into their metabolism reset and they're like, I don't want to do it for that long. I'm just going to reset for 2 weeks and then I'm going to move on. You can't just decide how much time your body needs to reset. Your body decides it. So you have to be able to give your body enough time to be able to reset. So I'm going to put that back up there for anybody who didn't get it. And let me see if there are any other questions here. Okay, Jessica. You said you work out daily, usually burn roughly 300 calories, but even on workout days, your Fitbit says that you burn roughly 1,900 calories a day. How can you burn more instead of eat less, even though you live a sedentary lifestyle aside your workout? Okay. How can you burn more? You can do a different style of workout. So if you're depending on, I know this is like hiding my face. I'm still here, but I wanted you guys to be able to see it too. So if you are actually doing maybe cardio style workouts, so I'm not sure what type of workouts you're doing, that might help me, Jessica, if you could post that in the comments, the style of workouts that you're doing, because often that is where you can change the burn. So if you're trying to say burn 300 and you're doing maybe a cardio workout, if you burn 300 of lifting, then you would still be burning calories afterwards. Or if that 300 was a HIIT workout, then you're burning calories well beyond the time. So if you're already doing those types of workouts, then you may not necessarily need to increase that burn anymore, because you're probably burning more than 300, more than you actually realize. So I'm going to see if you answer that. Yes, cardio, doing insanity. Okay, so if you're doing insanity right now and you're not incorporating any lifting, then I would start there, because so there's two different types of workouts. There's your aerobic and anaerobic, which insanity is probably a little on the anaerobic side. So it's going to help you as far as maybe maintaining some muscle. But if those sessions are too intense, if they're going like beyond that 30-minute mark, then you probably want to insert some lifting somewhere. So it's not so much about the amount of calories that you're burning during the workout that matters, because if you are doing the right types of workouts, well, so I shouldn't say right. There's no right or wrong. Whatever you want works for you. But just as far as what you're probably looking for your goals, if you're talking about fat losses, which is what I'm assuming, then there's going to be two different types of workouts. And one, the only time you're burning calories is during the workout. And the other one, you're burning calories during the workout and afterwards. So that is a difference between aerobic, which is more cardio based, and anaerobic, which is HIIT and lifting based. Those are going to give you much bigger bang for the buck factor. So that's probably what you would want to lean towards if you've been doing pretty much cardio exclusively, because doing cardio exclusively, your body is going to adapt to that and you're going to stop seeing results. Whereas if you are working out with weights, then you just keep increasing the poundage and the results keep changing. So if you're not already lifting, Jessica, I would probably include a little bit, not probably, I would definitely include a little bit more lifting. But my suggestion to you would be to consider adding some lifting, and instead of focusing so much on the amount of calories being burned during the workout, focus more on things that are giving you that afterburn factor, which are going to be HIIT type workouts. So doing something like insanity only beyond 21, 30 days or something like that, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I would recommend just setting it aside for a while, like giving it a rest, doing something different, something a little bit more resistance training based. You can always go back to it. It doesn't mean you're setting it aside forever, or maybe alternating it, having like a lift day and then an insanity day. Just a suggestion. So that's something that I would say. Liz, you're working on a cut phase for the first time ever, but you also work out regularly. Is the number of calories that you have allotted for the day the number that you should maintain with your workout? Should you be eating back calories that you burn to maintain that number? Okay, so Liz, are you working from the number on the Eat More to Weigh Less calculator? I'm not sure which number you're talking about. So if you're here, Liz, punch that in. If not, then I'm going to keep going because I don't know if you like did a drive-by posting of this. So if you are using the Eat More to Weigh Less calculator, which kind of gives you that idea of how much you should be eating for the per day, that takes your workouts into consideration already and kind of spreads it out over the week. So you don't have to try to like do any extra math to figure that out. The only thing that I would say is if you notice that you're actually working out longer than you're supposed to, you know, then not supposed to, because there's no requirement, but longer than what you put in the calculator. So say you entered 1 to 3 hours just because you didn't like the calorie level that you saw at 3 to 5 hours, but yet you're working out closer to 5 to 6 hours, then that means that you're under eating, you know, even more than what's already figured in with the cut. So the calculator already figures in what you're burning, and that's the amount that you're eating. So you wouldn't necessarily have to eat any calories back because that's already figured in. The only thing that I would take into consideration is if you skew the numbers at all, which some of us do in the beginning. You know, we punch that number in and we're like, that's too much. And we go and we lower the activity level on the calculator, but we don't lower it in real life. So if you're putting in more work than you said that you would, then you want to try to get those calories up. So that's the biggest thing, like even with what we're talking about here today, is that you don't want to veer too far from maintenance. So I know it seems like it's not, you know, a huge deal. And people think like, well, I'm cutting, so, you know, the more calories that I cut, the better. That's the whole point of everything that we're saying. It's like your body is really picky. It doesn't like being too far from maintenance. So when you go too far up or down, then you get different results than what you thought you were shooting for. So that means the person that's trying to gain muscle and they're like, I'm going to increase my calories, you know, like the old school bulkers that they're like, I'm going to eat 4 burgers at every meal. Like going that far above maintenance is not going to help you build muscle faster. So you would get the same amount of muscle building results going, you know, 150 to 200 over maintenance that you would get going 500 over, except at 500 over, like I said, your results are going to start shifting and you're going to see a little bit more fat gain. Now, when you go in the opposite direction, it's the same thing. So if you're cutting, you know, then people, that's what they're thinking, like, well, I'm going to cut. So if 200 calories is what the calculator is telling me to reduce, I'll reduce it by 700 to get there faster. You won't. You will not get there any faster by changing the numbers drastically. That's the whole point of everything that we're talking about today. So Jackie, you said changing mindset. Exactly. That's what this is all about, is we're changing the mindset of how we look at it. You want to stay within this range of what your body needs, you know, and then if you're kind of moving up or down for these separate goals, because if you want to gain muscle, you got to go up a little bit above maintenance. If you want to lose fat, sure, you have to go down a little bit below maintenance, but drastically changing those numbers, that's where that shift comes in. That's where all these things that we talked about that is happening that are changing, those 4 things that we talked about. If you guys just hopped on, you'll have to watch the replay, but we discussed those 4 things that are happening in your reproductive system, your cognitive system, which is your brain, your metabolic system, so what's happening with your metabolism, and also how your body is healing and coming back together quickly between injuries or building muscle workouts and things like that. So you're not recuperating fast enough. So just some of those things to take into consideration, those happen on the drastic end of the spectrum. So I encourage you to not be drastic because it won't get you there any faster. It's not a shortcut. It actually starts making you take the long way around, because then your body, like I say, it fights you. Your body's going to fight you if you drop those calories too low in search of fat loss. So don't adjust the numbers on the calculator based on the fact that you don't like those numbers, or you're like, I don't know, I don't think there's any way that I could possibly eat that much and still lose weight. Just trust it. You would rather be at maintenance than like slashing calories and going too far below, because a lot of times you could just have a little tweak in your workout that would provide you with those calorie burning benefits, you know, because of the fact that maybe you're doing, like we were talking about with Jessica, you know, you actually do some type of workout where you're still burning calories after the fact. So little tweaks like that, even if you're eating at maintenance, you're giving your body what it needs. You're giving your brain that quarter of your calories that it needs so that it can function properly. And you're giving your body those repair functions that it needs so that you can go hard in the gym and actually recuperate quickly. When you're giving your body those things, you could actually be shocked at how much progress most people would make just eating at maintenance. Like, oh my gosh, it's such a shocker that we could make progress and not be totally slashing our calories, but you can. So it's just one of those things that I want you guys to think about as you're processing through this and you're thinking about these mindset shifts. So Cindy said she learned the hard way and her hair fell out. I don't know how many of us are on here that can probably relate to what Cindy's saying, but you start going through a lot of those issues. You're having that. Your hair is getting brittle, your nails are getting brittle, your skin's breaking out, like all these things are happening, and we don't even associate it with the food or the amount that we're not eating. Instead, what a lot of us tend to do is we start searching for what else we can remove. Think about that. Most of us, we try to solve the problem with more of what is creating it. So we may be on a drastic diet that's causing our hair to fall out or causing our nails to be brittle. And we'll say like, I must need to remove something from my diet. And we start like searching, what else can I remove? Let me get rid of this. Let me, toss this off, or let me go through another elimination diet, when a lot of those end up further reducing our calories. And when those calories keep getting reduced, your brain keeps having to make those tough decisions of what's essential and what's not. And I don't think you want your brain making that decision, because I promise you it doesn't agree with you. So it's not going to be what you think is essential. So if you're thinking like, it's fine, I'll just lose more fat. You won't. You'll lose more of something, but it won't be fat. And then you'll keep trying. And then what's happening is that because all of that is happening, and because, like we talked about with the cognitive, because your brain needs what it needs. Do you know what your brain's preferred sources of fuels are if you don't have carbs in your system? It's fat. Your brain loves fat. So while it's making all these decisions of what to get rid of, I can guarantee you it will not be fat, because that is going to be its preferred source of fuel. That's what it wants to do. So when your body thinks there's a famine, it's like, well, let's hold on to all the fat. Not let's get rid of it. So I know it's oxymoronic. I know that I'm preaching to the choir for a lot of you guys, but if this whole thing is new to you, or if, New Year caught you off guard and maybe you started back down that rabbit hole, I just want to kind of, give you this little shove in the right direction. Just give you that little nudge to come on back to what that, is best for you. I get it. We all kind of get like overly motivated in the new year, and again in like spring or whatever, where we start like, I just got to make this happen. I just got to like tighten it up this time. And we start moving in directions that may take us further from our goals. So that's what I'm here for, is to just kind of pop back in every now and again and give you the little friendly slap back to reality. That's not what you want. It's okay to fall off or be tempted or look at something and not really think about the whole or how it's going to affect everything else, or seeing somebody get results and be more interested in like what's happening with them physically on the outside than what may be happening with them on the inside, or what would happen with you on the inside if you've done it before. And obviously, if you have gone through this process several times, then you've gone through that several times, which means that you have a longer rebuilding process ahead of you, which means your body is going to be quicker to reject all these other tries and attempts at doing something drastic. So that means that your body is going to be a lot quicker to ditch the muscle. It's going to be a lot quicker to hold on to the fat, and it's going to take a lot longer to heal. So when those 4 things that we talked about, what I want you to walk away with is remembering that if you have gone on several diets, if you've gone through this process more than enough times and you have experienced those things, the second that you do start eating again, those 4 areas are your body's first priority. So your body is going to start trying to rebuild those areas because now your repair systems are turned on. So your body's going to say, all right, what did we lose during our time of famine that we can rebuild? It's going to start sending extra calories to the brain to repair cognitive function. It's going to start sending extra, food to the muscles for your body to start trying to replenish those because it wants to build them back up. It's going to start sending extra calories to your metabolism to know that, okay, it's time to rev things up. It's going to get that thermic effect of food, that digestion calories that are burned. It's going to start increasing that. So it's going to go to repair all of those areas first before you start seeing those results that you're looking for physically. So you have to be patient throughout that process. And if you're not, again, you will not be able to cheat the system. So if you don't already have that free guide that I posted earlier, I'll post it one more time before we go. I highly recommend getting it. Like I say, if this information is new to you. So that's emtwo.com/start. You can go there and we'll send you a free guide. So I'll send you a quick start guide, which just breaks down all of this so that you know what to do and where to start. And it gives you the link to the calculator and all that stuff. And I'll just send you a couple videos to kind of reiterate some of this stuff. And then you can get started. So it's that easy for you to get started on that thing. And if you haven't, then do that. If you do and you have the starter kit and all that stuff, go back and reread it. It's all good. If maybe you've forgotten or you kind of gotta brush yourself off, go back and reread your starter kit if you purchased it and never even opened it, because that will give you that guidance. Join our Crushing the Diet Mentality group. That way you got a bunch of other people doing it with you. And so you have all the support that you need for those things. So I'm going to probably hop on again next Tuesday. I have a special author and friend who I want to introduce to you guys, who we're going to talk a little bit more about some of this stuff. She's a registered dietitian. So we're going to get all into talking about this and what is really happening with this food underneath the fat that we're worried about. So make sure that if you guys are not already, I don't know if you subscribe to the channel or get the live alert subscription. So that way, if you don't get an email or alert in some way, you know the second that we're live so that you don't miss those. I'm going to be bringing some pretty cool authors to you guys over the next couple months, kind of doing like a book of the month type thing to help you guys in your journey so that you can get some input from other authors and go and read these things that help you to stay on the path when I know it gets hard, like I say right now, and then in other periods of time when you're like summer and things like that. So January and summer, those things get hard. Annette, is this now? You mean this video? Now? It's now. So I think that's what you mean. Like, are we live right this second? Yes, we are. So those of you guys who are just joining, I'm going to go ahead and pop off so that you can get started on the replay. The gist of what I was talking about happens within the first 15 to 20 minutes of the replay. So don't worry if you missed it or if you just joined in now. You're not going to have to rewatch the whole 45 minutes to get what you need from it. I said what I had to say in the beginning, so you can go rewatch that and have all. Yes, it's alive, Annette. You guys are funny. So yes, it is. Make sure you turn on the notifications. Jackie, you said, is this the best place to follow? Yes, probably. I would say in here, or if you're in the Crushing the Diet Mentality group, I'm over there a lot. I'm usually going live in either place. But yes, if you're here, just turn on the live notifications. That way you'll know quickly when I'm up. Other than that, I'm pretty much everywhere. So if you like videos or you want to get caught up, you can go over to the YouTube channel. There's tons of stuff there. We're on Pinterest, Instagram, pretty much everywhere as at EM2WL or at Eat More to Weigh Less, number 2. For all of those, so not the word 2, number 2. So you can go to any of those platforms and follow me everywhere if you want. But yes, this is a good place to interact with me live. So I'm going to hop off so that the replay viewers can get a head start, and so that those of us like Annette that just woke up can be cognitive of what all just happened here. So thank you everybody for joining, and I will talk to you guys later.